I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Some of the things that we continue to have happen throughout this process is we like to talk in snapshots. We like to say what's flashy and what sounds good so people understand, right? But these are things that are impacting lives at some point or another. And we talked about, as we were dealing with education, and we were talking about teachers, because there's a study that was done that showed that with teachers, right, what they did was they studied teachers and they studied their gaze. And one of the things that they saw was it was not that teachers were quote unquote unfairly targeting black kids, right? What they saw was their gaze tended to stay fixated on the young kid of color. So when they did something, as soon as they did it, they were then punished, right? So it goes back to, he's a bad dude. My eyes stayed on him, so as soon as you did it, I got you. I'm a former teacher. I know how it goes. That's why I never went back into the teacher's lounge after that first day. Now, when we start thinking about that, what does that lead to? Many of you should already know that Virginia is #1 in the school-to-prison pipeline, right? So that means we refer the most kids to law enforcement for infractions at school, right? So then the easy argument is, well, they just need to not act up and you wouldn't have those problems, right? Now, there was a landmark study. It's called Breaking the School Rules. They studied 1 million of these courses, right? So understand that when we start talking about suspensions, there are two ways that can happen. There are discretionary and there are mandatory. Discretionary is my son is sitting in class and he rolls his eyes or he won't put his cell phone away or he's talking back, right? I have the discretion to discipline him because it gets in a verbal situation and I call the officer in to get him out, right? That is discretionary. Mandatory is kid goes in and he's selling drugs or he's, assaults a teacher or something along those lines. Those are the two differences, right? When they did this study, what they found out was young black kids, especially males, were 31% higher in likeliness that they would be suspended for discretionary issues. So when I dealt with that young black kid, I was like, he is a problem, I'm not dealing with him, get him out. When it came to mandatory suspensions, they were 16% lower in likelihood of being suspended for something that was mandatory. So they ain't selling drugs, they ain't doing the crazy, might have been a little mouthy, I don't know what it led to. So that's what they're being suspended for, right? We found out that only 3% of the suspensions are actually mandatory. And then you know what happens is when they get them out of that class, you know what they do to them next? You know what? I think he has emotional problems. So we're going to put him in special ed. And that's what we do. We ship them off to special ed. We ship them off to these alternative classes, right? And that's why, while we're overrepresenting in the special ed classes, we are underrepresenting in the talent and gifted classes.
The branch of the NAACP presents the Pillar of the Community Award for Outstanding Lifetime Community Service. And we all know what it is to be a pillar of the community. So please, let's stand and give them a round of applause. President, because, and he doesn't know I'm going to say this, but working with him, I can tell you that he really has a heart for the young people and for the seniors. And he's always saying, what can we do for our young people? What can we do for our seniors? And so thank you so much, Mr. Thompson. Award. The reason I feel she should be nominated for this award is that all my life, I always remember her noticing when things are not right, and she always took action to correct them. What a statement from a child about a parent. This nominee in 1966 lived in Fairfax, and you know, Sister Michelle, Pastor Michelle, gave a wonderful speech last week at Emancipation Day and talked about how we all need to get involved in the community, and sometimes it just takes a little thing. And so this nominee got involved in the first community action campaign with saving an old elm tree, which would be bulldozed to construct the Langley High School in McLean. But this led to her chairing the League of Women Voters Land Planning Committee, which led to Fairfax County passing the first soil erosion and sedimentation ordinance in the nation. And then she was awarded the Soil and Water Conservation Service Citizen of the Year Award. In 1967, she was awarded the Washington Star Citizen of the Year Award. I mean, it goes on and on. But in 1971, she was awarded a Special Service Award for an initiative in providing means of communicating new ideas for resolving urban problems to HUD employees. This led her to organizing the first HUD Women's Caucus to bring attention to and to correct discrimination of women in federal government. And as president of the Women's Caucus, the first thing she did was hire a male secretary. In 1988, she relocated to Leesburg. And she is currently on the Leesburg Planning Commission since 2008. And she's active in all town matters involving the quality of life issues such as conservation and environment, equal opportunity, planning and zoning, public arts, and playing good government. So a lot of things you see around Leesburg is directly related to her efforts. Then in 1992, she joined the NAACP and was one of the founding members of the Martin Luther King March. That march started 25 years ago. It still goes on, so if you ever come to our parade, she was one of the founding members and she chaired the first 2 committees for that. And I just saw her in the room earlier this week. She's working on it for 2018. I tell you. She has been an assistant secretary of the NAACP here, the vice president of the NAACP here, and she's been the president of the NAACP here. She's been working. In the mid-1990s, she represented the NAACP at the Northeast Coalition. I don't know, some of you in the room may remember that. And they supplied tutoring for students and assistance with civil rights issues, and she was a representative on that. Oh wow, we're almost there. In October, she was honored to receive, that's October 2016, and I think when I started, I was talking about 1966. In 2016, she was honored to receive the first Ann Robinson Social Justice Award. So ladies and gentlemen, I give you Doris Kerr as your 2017. I haven't known her not to say a few words.
I have something to say about Gladys. When I was vice president of the NAACP here, the president had to go on military duty, and so that left a vacancy, and usually the vice president, moves up, right? So I didn't feel comfortable about that. I thought, how can I be the president of the NAACP? So I said to Gladys, I don't think I can do this. She said, Doris, if you don't be president just because you're white, that's as racist as it is.